Welcome into the LIBA Business Hour, sponsored by Nats to Tassili, highlighting local independent businesses in and around Lincoln on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. Here's your host, LIBA Executive Director Travis Filing and Gary Tharnish.
And good morning. You are listening to the LIBA Business Hour, bright and early this Saturday morning, 6 a.m. Oof, that's a rough getting out of bed this morning, I'm telling you. Gary is not with us today. He's somewhere over the Atlantic, heading off to Italy. So trying to find a guest host today, and I made a couple of calls, and then I'm like, you know what? My son, most people don't know this. I'm from Cleveland, and so I'm a Cleveland Browns season ticket holder. And my son Alex and I, every Saturday home game, we head in and come in, and we do the show. And Alex is always sitting next to me because as soon as the show's over, we're off to the airport and heading to Cleveland for our weekly beating this year. And so I'm like, wow, half the time Alex is like writing me questions and sliding it to me. And I thought, why not just have him on the show? Just have him be our co-host today. So I'm kind of excited. I get to introduce my son, Alex, who is my co-host.
How's it going?
It's going good, man. It's going good. And today our guest is Dan Sloan. Dan owns the mill. It's been around for a little while.
A little bit.
I moved here in 1998, and you were definitely up and going then. So what year did you guys open the store?
You know, we trace our roots back to about 1975.
Man.
We were just kind of a little coffee store for the first number of years. Bought our first roaster in 87, moved into the Haymarket in 88. At that point, we kind of morphed into the espresso bar that you know today. And
okay.
So when we're bragging, we say 75. When we're being truthful, 88's kind of the real marker of when the mill is, as Lincoln knows it, started.
So what'd you say sets your coffee apart from most every other place?
You know, I think one of the biggest things in coffee is fresh.
Mm-hmm.
The fresher it is, the better it's going to be. You can take a really great coffee and leave it sit on your shelf for a month or 2 months, and it's going to be a pretty mediocre cup of coffee. So I think that's a big part of it.
And you roast all your coffee here in town, right?
We do.
Okay.
And I can tell you the roasting crew I have right now is phenomenal. I mean, these guys are, kind of a wicked cross between science nerds and just plain nerds. I mean, they drink so much coffee, they cup probably 3/4 of what they put through the roaster. They'll take and make a cup and argue about whose batch is better.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
Making sure it's roasted just so.
Exactly.
So where do you get all your beans from?
We buy it from an importer out in California.
Okay.
But they literally come from all over the world. Coffee is grown. The coffee belt is kind of around the equator between Tropic of Capricorn and Tropic of Cancer. So you've got the American group, the African group, and then the Indonesian group.
And what's the best?
It's what's best to you is what tastes best to you.
It's kind of like a wine almost, right?
Exactly.
Whatever tastes good to you is
That's
good.
Exactly right. And coffee does kind of break down by demographic. It's the real young generation tends towards the Africans because they're real bright, lively, wild flavors. My grandpa would probably be more like a Colombian drinker. It tastes like coffee smell. It's really good, but it's true to form.
I think my grandma drank Sanka.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what that is. I think that was the stuff that fell out of the truck on the side of the road. They'd sweep that up, grind it. Sanka.
Yeah.
That's what.
And it was instant. It was instant.
Yes, it was.
Yep.
So what made you go, I'm going to open up a business, coffee?
Well, again, truth be told, I didn't.
Oh, all right.
I was a accounting major, got a job at a local bike shop that happened to have a tiny little coffee store in the corner of it.
Okay.
That's where the mill started.
I was curious about there's bicycles on some coffee cups. I'm like, why a bicycle?
Yeah. Back in the day, there were 2 bike shops in Lincoln. This was when bicycling was really coming back into America in a big way. And there was the hippie shop and the yuppie shop, and we were the hippie shop.
Okay.
And we had coffee down in the corner of the showroom, and we had beer fridges up in the office, and that was kind of how it all started.
And you just roll right into, once noon hit, you rolled from the coffee into beer and...
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much.
So you wanted to get your bike work done early in the morning.
Right.
Not late in the afternoon.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is shifting backwards. I don't know why.
He's still young, so it's beer all day, every day. So.
Yeah, there you go. No, I was
Especially on
raised in a small business back in Michigan. My father's a baker. His father was a baker. So I knew from way back that I really wanted to own my own business.
Yeah.
Which was why I went into accounting, why I, went that route. And so this opportunity presented itself, and I just decided, sure, this is a good way to go.
So how'd you end up in Lincoln then?
We had a bakery back in Michigan, and then my dad got recruited to come to Lincoln and run the bakery for Union College.
Okay.
So it was an old family friend that was president of the college at the time, and knew that we were kind of at a point where, because the family had grown and the business hadn't kept up, it was a bit of a struggle.
Yeah.
You can feed one family on a small business. It's hard to feed three.
Yeah. That's the thing with, you look at a lot of business owners and you have, second, third, fourth generation, and everybody has kids, right?
Yeah.
And you sit there and you go, well, geez, I have 2 kids. Am I going to give my business to my 2 kids? And then they all have grandkids. And then before too long, it's my mom. She had a great grandfather that had an oil well in West Virginia, right?
Okay.
And so and of course back then they had 6, 7, 8 kids,
Yep.
And I actually got a check. This was probably, 10 years ago, for $1 something from this oil well that my mom's family still owns. And finally it's like, just take my name off this, because it costs more to get the check to me.
Right.
For 5 years, I think I got $1 for a 5-year profit.
Right.
It's like, just let's consolidate this.
Yeah.
So he had a bunch of people that were like in the family that were running the bakery.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have 3 brothers, and so I'm third in line, and my 2 older brothers had gotten married. One of them had started a family, and so it was just time to do something different.
Yeah.
And it was a good time for me to find a new set of friends and buckle down in college and get serious about life. So it was, Lincoln's been really, really a tremendously good influence in my life.
And you don't want to be the youngest brother in a business.
No.
You don't want to be the youngest brother any dang way.
You got
because I'm
picked
a
on-
young brother. You're a young
picked on-
brother.
Yeah, you got picked on growing up, and why would that change?
That's right. Yeah, that would be tough. So, is the bakery still going?
Nope.
Okay.
We closed it up, and after we left Michigan, I swore I would never have a bakery again.
Yeah.
It's like frying donuts at 5 a.m. with a hangover is not a good thing. It just isn't. But now the mill does all their food in-house.
That's what I was going to ask.
So I have a bakery now, but I do not fry donuts at 5 a.m.
But do you still have some family recipes?
Oh yeah.
Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, our cinnamon rolls are my dad's family dough recipe.
Okay.
And, number of the others.
So how does baking go into coffee? Does it overlap?
Yeah, it does, because you can only drink so much coffee without putting something else in your stomach.
Yeah.
It's a breakfast food. The other thing is that one of the challenges with a coffee shop is a really low average ticket. You go into a restaurant, even at lunchtime, you're going to drop $20. In a coffee shop,
Yeah.
a coffee's $3, and you're not going to get 3 of them. At a bar, even if the beer's cheap, you'll have 2 or 3 of them. So we look for those products that will help both elevate the experience, but also expand the revenue stream.
And the profit margin has to be decent on a cup of coffee,
Right.
but you got to sell a lot of it because the rent it ain't cheap,
That's right. Yeah. We have that conversation with developers all the time. It's like,
Yeah.
Yeah, I see how many people wander through my door too, but I also know how much they're leaving.
Right. Yeah, and when you roll in and you sell one table, 2 people who sit there for 2 hours on their laptops,
Right.
and drop $6.
Yep.
Happy to have that business, but I got to get a lot of those people through the door.
That's exactly right.
So I know you got like 2 or 3 mills downtown. If you move towards the outskirts or the edges of Lincoln, that the rent goes down, but do also your, revenues because less business, or how would that work?
Well, what we need in a location is we need good street presence, but we also need to have a good population base around it. And we need a population base that's somewhat mobile. So a university or a college is really ideal because kids are always on the move. Downtown, people are coming to work, they're leaving work, that sort of thing. If you're out in the suburbs, you might catch them as they're leaving the neighborhood to go to work. You're probably not going to catch them on the way home. They're going to go home, have dinner, or go home, grab their spouse, go to dinner, something like that. So we really have, our model doesn't really embrace the drive-through. We're more a much bigger footprint, and we do want those people to come and sit and work and meet somebody interesting and get some work done and things like that. So we need a bigger location, hence more rent, but we also just need more volume of people wandering through.
What have you done over the years that may have worked or not worked to try and get that average ticket price up? I mean, baked goods is one of those things.
Yeah, baked goods is one. Elevating the baked goods has been a really big thing. We do lots of playing around with the menu. Seasonal drinks are a good way to do it. The first thing people ask is what's new.
Right.
And so it's like, well, this is new and it happens to be a premium drink. So it's going to cost you $1 more than the other stuff. That sort of thing. But generally it's just trying to, it's more systemic stuff. It's keeping the stores looking really good. We remodeled downtown to be more efficient for kind of customer throughput, which makes the staff happier, but it also makes the customer a lot happier.
Yeah.
Try and be a really good value and try and be a great place to be. But we've also invested very heavily in our staff training. So we get probably more compliments on our staff than we do our coffee or our baked goods. And we're really proud of our coffee and our baked goods. Don't get me wrong. We are top notch and we get lots of compliments on that, but we get an amazing number of people that just say, she just made my day.
Yeah.
Our service model is different than most of the other shops in that the person you order from makes your drink, hands you your drink, takes your money. That transaction stays intact from start to finish. It's not the least experienced person that you're talking to, and then you go stand down at the end of the counter and they kind of sort of yell some variation of your name.
Yeah,
and then you
write your name in magic marker on the side.
Right.
And,
yeah. So, we try and keep that human interaction in there. And I think people, especially in such a heavily digitized society as we have, I think that's missing for a lot of folks.
Yeah. And it's so interesting because I can't remember the guy's name that's out there now. He's
that's
there.
Luke.
Luke. Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to write it down because I feel so bad because Luke knows my name.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember Luke's name, but I'm going to remember Luke's name. I'll write it on my cup right now. I'm going to write Luke on the side of my cup.
Call him Mr. Personality.
That's right. And he has one because I came in. I don't drink coffee in the afternoon, but I felt like drinking coffee. And I was like, what do you got? I don't drink flavored coffee. He sold me on flavored coffee.
Oh, did he really?
Like hazelnut, I think this is. And it's delicious. You know?
There you go.
I mean,
see, I always think, I've got to be like the your worst customer because I am a black coffee as plain could be. and if it's boring, bold, I'm good. I don't need pumpkin anything.
So you're my worst customer because you order something that I can almost instantly hand you, and it's my highest margin item.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, you
Look
suck.
who just moved up.
You're still the worst customer. You heard
it. That's right.
So what goes into making these, specialty drinks, the seasonal drinks? Like, is that your roasters, or who makes those and how do they do it?
It's more the front of house folks. The roasters are just concentrating on turning unroasted coffee into the best coffee possible. It's the people that are, and we have kind of a core of folks that really know kind of what they're doing with that are always looking for seasonal combinations. You have to pay attention to national trends and whatnot, but just trying to find things that are going to be interesting, that we try to be somewhat more traditional than a lot of shops. We don't want more calories in a cup than you should consume in a day. It should taste like coffee.
Right.
We're kind of old fashioned that way, but they do try and come up with, and staff will suggest things. People will come in and say, "Hey, why don't you try this?" Or, they're forever handing me something, and I'm like, I'm the espresso version of you.
Okay.
I want a shot of espresso and I want some steamed milk, and that's it.
Yeah.
Nothing else. So they'll hand me something, and I'm like, sure, I'll taste that.
It tastes like rainbows.
Does it taste like money?
See, to me, when we go overseas, I get an Americano, which is basically a cup of coffee that comes in a shot glass minus the water. There is no water in an Americano, and it's like it's going to dissolve your teeth if you leave it in there too long. That's my kind of stuff.
Yeah. See, I had no idea. Black coffee. If I went overseas, I'd probably be confused.
Yeah, no. If you get an Americano, it's kind of like concentrate.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, but it is a little more
though.
diluted than a straight espresso.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, that was, during World War II, that was how that drink was developed, because all the GIs were over in Italy, and they couldn't stand the espresso, so they'd add some hot water to it and just dilute it a little bit.
Interesting.
Wow.
I had no idea.
So how much caffeine's in an espresso?
Actually about the same as what's in your cup of coffee.
Just smaller portion,
Right.
or
It's,
smaller size.
it's kind of like a beer and a whiskey. It's about the same amount of alcohol. One hits you harder because you get it all at once. But if you drink a tall boy of a light beer versus a shot of whiskey, you're still getting about the same amount of alcohol. But it does hit you a little differently.
So backing up a little bit, because I keep thinking about this bicycle shop, and obviously you don't have a bicycle shop anymore.
Right.
So what made you go, let's get rid of the bicycle shop. Let's keep doing coffee.
Well, I didn't start the bike shop or
Okay.
the mill. So
Okay.
I was, in fact,
I was going to say, you don't look you don't look like you started a business in 1975.
nope,
But
I kind of wish I did, but, so the guy that owned the bike shop decided that, he was done with coffee. So he sold the mill to one of his managers. So the bike shop was Freewheelin' Bike Shop over on South 13th Street. Moved the mill over to North 14th Street. And one of his managers owned it, and then later took on another manager as a partner. And then when they moved into the Haymarket, things really kind of took off. And that was when I joined the company.
Okay.
So it moved into the Haymarket in 88. I maintained contact with the mill from 78 when I started there all the way through, but I went off and did public accounting and corporate accounting and stuff like that for a while. And then in about 1990, I'm like, I'm about done with these suits and all this nonsense, and I want to have my own place. I want to be a little more in control of my destiny. And that was when I came back full time. And at that point there were 3 partners, me being one of them. And then over the years, the other 2, we've bought them out. But we were pretty sleepy for quite a while. We had the Haymarket store until 2000. That was our only store. In 2000, we started the College View store, and we did that for a long time. So in about 2010, the other active partner retired, and then in about 2012, I got together with my wife, and Dale was my partner, and Dale and Dan were pretty laid back guys and just having fun running a couple of coffee shops. And Tamara's, there's no grass growing on her feet. I mean, we went from 2 to now 6 stores.
wow.
And so, part of it is success breeds success. And so, once you start showing that you're going to be successful, then those opportunities present themselves.
Yeah. And working with your wife is not easy.
Oh, no.
You know, because my wife and I are business partners. Well, technically, she owns the business I work for. That's why it works.
Careful, you're about to get in trouble.
I probably am.
Probably.
But there's no question as to who's in charge.
Right.
And it ain't me. Right.
Yeah.
Saved it. Nice.
I think you have to have just really clear lines there.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure there's areas, at least in our case, there are areas where I make those decisions.
Mm-hmm.
There's areas that she makes those decisions. And then there's areas that we both understand this needs to be a collaborative process.
Yeah. And there has to be, like for us, I tell people all the time, they go, what's it like to work with your wife? Is it tough? No, it's fantastic because I trust her to do what she needs to do. There's never a, is she working? There's never a, is he working? Right. Oh, no, we're working because we have to be working because we're in it together. All our everything is in this basket. All our eggs are in this basket.
Yep.
So,
and you know that her incentives are the same as yours.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we have to go to a break, and when we come back, we will we'll probably get off the working with your spouse because sooner or later someone's going to say something bad. So you are listening to 93.7 The Ticket, and we will be right back with Dan Sloan of The Mill.
Back to the LIBA Business Hour on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. This segment sponsored by Ascend Aesthetics.
All right, and you are back on the LIBA Business Hour. Thanks for listening. We are with Dan Sloan and Alex, who is my co-host for the day, and Gary is, like I said, Gary's off to Italy. We should be in Italy doing this show, and Gary should be here. Mm-hmm. I think we got all this backwards today. But so here's my question. So my dad is from Mississippi, right? And of course, what's in the coffee in Mississippi? Chicory.
Yep.
Right? Mm-hmm. Do you do chicory?
Not anymore. We used to.
Do you?
Yeah, we did for a very long time. It was kind of popularized again during World War II when coffee was really hard to get.
Yeah.
And I think coffee must have been really bad back then for them to use chicory as a substitute because it's pretty bitter.
Yeah.
But you still get down into New Orleans and down in that area, and it's still, you go to Cafe Du Monde down in New Orleans, and it's
there.
Coffee.
You betcha.
Yep.
And I actually special order because I need it once in a while. You almost need that remember when type flavor because that's what we had growing up. It was just, there was chicory and coffee.
Yep.
And it's tough sledding every day. But once in a while, it's kind of fun to go back and get that. And I was looking up it. So it was actually during the Civil War when the North had come down and they had blocked off the, what's the New Orleans, not Bay of New Orleans, but the shipping. And so it cut off all their coffee supply. And that's when they started roasting chicory. Yep. And I thought, what idiot went, hey, get that weed over there and dig it up and let's roast that. That's desperate.
Yeah.
But there might be some caffeine in there too. I don't know.
I don't know that there's much, if there's any. Yeah.
If there is, it doesn't taste good, you know?
Well, caffeine's pretty bitter anyway, so maybe there is.
So you actually did chicory and coffee at the mill?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, we sold chicory separately. We had one blend that was blended with chicory, and then for a long time, we did a version of our cold brew coffee with chicory.
Okay. Wow. That surprises me because most people up here have never even heard of chicory. Right. So
yeah,
you guys probably, yeah. There's no reason why you should have.
No.
I mean, it's just a weird thing people used to put in coffee and in places they still do. So you probably roasted 5 pounds of it, and then 20 years later you ran out of those 5 pounds and discontinued it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
So one thing that I ask a lot of people, business owners, because you went through it just like the rest of us did, what did COVID do to you guys?
It made us really creative.
Yeah.
We have 6 shops. 4 of them have liquor licenses.
Really? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Why are we drinking coffee?
This one has a liquor license. I'll buy you a beer when we're done here. But what we really want to do is present that place where everybody can be. Mm-hmm. You can have a beer. I can have a glass of wine. He can have a coffee. Everybody's comfortable. Nobody's, you're not like taking them to a bar for a business meeting, but if it's late in the afternoon on a Friday, why not?
Yeah, why not?
So what we did, and I think Governor Ricketts said that it was hands down the most popular decision he ever made, was under COVID, he authorized drinks to go.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did is we got these little Mylar bags that look like Capri Sun for adults.
Okay.
We repackaged wine into them. So you'd get about 5 ounces of wine, which is 2.5 ounce tastings. We would do 5 of those and then 5 food pairings to go with them. Put it all in a big package and deliver it to your door. And then we presented a card that told you all about the wine and all about the food and why we paired it. And then we did a Zoom tasting every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We had a running joke that said if, we'd send out punch cards and you could, if you got enough punches, we'd pay your way through a 12-step program. but that, honestly, we did not have to force furlough a single employee. We lost probably half our staff, but it was all voluntary. We're heavy into student labor. And so lots of them, the university shut down, so they went home. They were all remote. So we did not have to lay off anybody that didn't want to be laid off.
Wow.
Kept our crew going. It kept our wine vendor in business, literally, probably saved his business. He helped us present those every weekend. And then, we did a wine tasting last night with a vintner out of Italy, and probably 90% of the people that were there were on those Zoom calls with us.
Yeah.
And it's not unusual for someone to stop me and say, "You saved my marriage during COVID."
The alcohol.
Well,
the alcohol on delivery.
It was the only social event they had.
That's awesome.
We'd have 40 couples on a screen. We'd have somebody presenting the wine, our chef presenting the food, a great conversation like this. They're stuck at home, but yet they're with all these other people that they get to interact with.
That is cool.
It was amazing. We did lots of coffee to go. We did home delivery of anything that you wanted, all of that sort of thing, drop it on the doorstep, ring the doorbell and run. Kind of a deal. But we were able to pivot because of that. And I know a lot of other folks tried things like that, but I think our format really resonated because of the social aspect. And I think that was because that's kind of in our DNA, is to be that social place. And so we wanted that to be a component. Lots of bars did drinks to go and whatnot, and they may or may not have been successful with it, but we were quite successful with it.
So do you do mixed drinks, and do you use your coffee for that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, our espresso martini is killer.
Oh.
It is the best in
I don't
town.
think I've ever had one.
No.
That's interesting.
It's way better than Red Bull and vodka.
I've never gone down that road either. That one just doesn't sound like a good plan.
Nope.
Yeah. I love hearing stories, though, because there's so many businesses out there that just COVID hit and they just threw their hands up in the air and they go, well, I guess that's it.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have this choice, man. You got to do something.
Right.
Because we were in the same boat. We're in marketing. Right. We're an ad agency. We had 12 employees. And, well, if no one's allowed to come down to the mill and have a cup of coffee, you're not running any ads to come on down to the mill and have a cup of coffee. So we had to pivot. You got to start. And, man, did we have the ideas. And it's just, we had big whiteboards and what are we going to do and how are we going to fix this and how are we going to keep this going? We were in the same boat. We didn't lay one person off. Yeah. And so that's something I'm so proud of.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because, you got to pivot. And what a cool idea.
I think it was a test for everybody. There were lots of people who did just kind of fold up their tent. Yeah. And, rely on whatever handouts were out there. But we knew those were not going to be forever.
Right.
What are you going to do the day after?
Yeah, exactly.
And especially in the hospitality business, it's so habit-based. If we can get you to build us into your routine, we've got a repeat customer that really has no interest in doing other things. If you fall out of that habit, it's really hard to get you back.
Yeah.
And so that was a big part of what drove us initially, was saying we have to do something to stay in front of our customer.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's tough. I mean, when those government checks came out, they looked big. They were not that big.
They weren't.
You know, and you sit there and you go, okay, here's a little pile of money, and this will keep 12 employees. This is going to keep paychecks for probably about 4 months, maybe. That means in 4 months, we're scrambling.
Right.
So what are we going to do between now and whatever the month was, September, to make sure that these people have security and have an opportunity? Because I don't know about you, we didn't take the second round, even though we qualified, because it was kind of like, hey, there were so many companies, they were spinning, going, we can make it work. We can make you get a check. I'm like, the government doesn't like to play that way, you know.
No.
If there's a question mark, the government might come back and go, hey, where's that money? And by the way, the juice has been running on that money ever since you cashed the check.
Right.
So, yeah, that's really cool that you did that. So do you do a lot of, because anymore it seems like there are coffee shops everywhere.
Right.
Right. I remember 20 years ago, went up to Seattle and, you know, went into a Starbucks, went into the bathroom. There was another Starbucks in there. Yeah. It seems like that's where every single market is going, including Lincoln. There's a lot of coffee shops, but you guys are still going strong, doing well. What are you doing? I mean, we're not going to get secrets out there, you know, so that the other coffee shops we're taking notes, but what are some of the things that you guys are doing different that keeps you in front of people and keeps you top of mind?
Well, I think it helps that we are coming from such a strong reputational base. You know, we really are kind of the grandfather of coffee in Lincoln, and that gives us a huge advantage over somebody who just pops in from out of town. I think the biggest thing, though, is kind of our service model that I talked about earlier, and the fact that our stores are they're kind of the old penny university that coffee houses used to be. It's a place to come and congregate, talk to friends, get some work done, a place to be, rather than sitting isolated in your car, smelling the fumes of the car in front of you, waiting for that cup of coffee. We do have a drive-through on our store up in Omaha, but it's not something that we really push heavily, because I like to say we present community as much as we present coffee or baked goods. Yeah. And I think that's our secret, but not everybody's willing to do that, and it's hard.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot of staff, we have a lot of overhead, we have a lot of training, and you have to have the volume to make that model work.
Yeah.
Where, you know, these little kiosks that you throw up at the side of the road, you can run those on one person.
Yeah.
And you put a super automatic machine in there, and you don't even have to train them. I train my staff about 40 hours before I turn them loose on a shift. We have a full-time dedicated trainer. So it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of attention to detail.
But it's got to pay off for you guys, because I will say this, you have some of the best service for a coffee shop. I would say you have the best service of any coffee shop in town. And it kind of reminds me like Chick-fil-A, right? I always told my wife, I said, if I ever write an autobiography, it's going to be Chick-fil-A has ruined my life, because when I'm standing in line or, you know, sitting in the drive-thru at some other restaurant who you order 10 nuggets and there's only 9 of them ready.
Right.
Wait a minute, Chick-fil-A can do it. Why can't you do it? Yeah. And it's kind of become the same thing with coffee shops. And I come into your shop, and I'm so glad that the studio is here with your shop, because I get 2 fixes in one on Saturday morning. But your staff is fantastic. They're friendly, they're nice, and it works. So, I mean, hats off to you for being able to train a staff and keep them excited and happy. That's got to be tough.
It is. We have great managers. I think we understand our kind of who we hire pretty well. We've got a couple of people, my wife and then another senior manager does like virtually all of the screening and hiring. And then the guy that does the training is really, I mean, he's kind of like our Harry Potter sorting hat. I mean, each of our stores has kind of a different personality, and he'll figure out where to put them, how to massage their training. He'll change the training. It's like, oh, this is a visual learner, so I have to approach her this way. Him, all I got to do is just keep talking, because he takes all his information through his ears. And so Brandon really, really gets that. But I think the other part of it is that a happy, engaged staff is a happy, engaged staff.
Yeah.
And they love each other. They have lots of fun. They go rent that little bicycle thing that rides around the Haymarket, and they do a lot of things together. But we also are pretty lavish with our praise.
Mm-hmm.
When you walk in, I mean, how many times have you gotten a cup of coffee from me?
From you personally?
Right.
I don't know if I have or not.
Right. But you know Luke.
Yeah.
And you know that Luke is going to give you what you want in a friendly, competent, efficient way.
Yeah.
So we tell the staff, and we tell anybody that'll listen, the staff is the face of the mill, not Dan.
Yeah.
Not Tamara.
Yeah.
And so we have to support them as much as we can.
And it was funny. I think the first time I came in here, I had coffee that I brought from home, in a little thermal mug. And Luke's like, well, can I dump this out? And I'm like, sure. Dumps it out, washes my cup, which probably hasn't been washed in 2 months, and then washed it, put a fresh coffee in there. I thought, oh my gosh,
yeah,
this guy's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And you almost go, man, I need to recruit this guy to come work for me. But he's happy. He's doing good. He's such a good worker.
But if you want any of the kids, make them an offer, because these are college kids.
Yeah.
And we tell them, we want you for a couple of years, and we want you to have a lot of fun and make money and get out of this deal with a great degree and not a lot of debt, and then go get your grown-up job.
Yeah. That's really cool.
So as a business owner, what policies do you put in place to make the staff more happy, love their job? What from the upper management level do you do?
I think a lot of it is kind of less policies and more habits. I'm real present with the staff. All of our managers are what we call working managers. They work a certain number of shifts so that they're really hands-on with the staff. I will work shifts. I don't ask them to do anything I wouldn't do, but I also treat them with a lot of respect and a lot of appreciation. And we really drive that into our managers. And we don't get it right every time with our hires. And so we're always making sure that we're helping them be the best they can be, or helping them find a situation where they can be happy if they can't be happy with us. Because there's nothing worse than working with, somebody who isn't carrying their weight and is really unpleasant to be around. And the manager sees it, and they just won't fix it because they hold a slot on the schedule. The manager doesn't want to have that tough conversation, all of that stuff. It's like, no, you owe it to them to help them become a better employee, but you also owe it to everybody else to create a great work environment. We do pooling of all of our tips throughout the day. So if you've got one person who's not carrying their weight, they still get their share of tips. And that really upsets the rest of the staff.
Yeah, and I understand why.
Mm-hmm.
And good on you for, realizing, because that's something in our business. We have a lot of college kids too, graphic designers, and we realize that we're a small shop, we're a mom and pop shop, and you're not going to work for us until you're 50.
Right.
And that's okay. In fact, if you're still here at 50, I'm going to put a lump on your head, because there's bigger opportunities, a grown-up job, even though we do, we train the ever-loving crap out of our employees, but we understand that we are not, BBDO, or, this is not the pinnacle of your agency career.
Right.
That you're young and you're learning, and you're going to move on, and that's okay, but we still train them like they are going to be here until they retire.
Right.
Most people don't do that. They just don't.
Right.
See, that's interesting from the construction world. The foremen that I like the best are the ones that don't ask you to do something they wouldn't do. Like, most foremen I get along with, they're down and the hole with me, you know, laying conduit in the mud. And the ones I absolutely never got along with are, you know, sitting in the trailer, you know, enjoying the air conditioning.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Gary, he was telling us, I surprised him a couple of weeks ago, and I know a couple of his ex-employees, one of them being my wife, who went on to own their own businesses. And he was telling a story about one gal that came to work for him, and she wouldn't clean the bathroom. And he's like, there's 7 of us, including me, and each of us take a week and clean the bathroom. If the owner can clean the bathroom, you can clean the bathroom. And she quit 6 weeks in.
But good on him, because if that's an issue, what other issues are you going to have with an employee like that?
Yeah, exactly.
Sweetie, you're using the bathroom.
Right.
Yeah.
This is not fair.
Yeah. Well, and what he said, he said it was no problem, but you can't use the bathroom. I would absolutely love to do that. That would be hilarious. Well, we have a break coming up here, so we're going to come back in just a minute. You are listening to 93.7 The Ticket.
Back to the LIBA Business Hour on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. This segment sponsored by Integrated Behavioral Health Services.
And you're back for the last segment on the LIBA Business Hour. We're here with Dan Sloan, owner of the mill. And something that always interests me is when you look at all these different companies out there, they're all moving into these different directions as far as, you know, you have, you know, like Starbucks, for example. I mean, they've got drinks in cans and drinks in bottles, and they're in the U-stops, and they're all over the place.
Yep.
And you go, gosh, is this a business do I need to take my business in this direction? Is this something that I should be doing? Or is it nope, this is our home run swing as coffee? What do you see a lot of these opportunities out there, and do you take advantage of them? Are you moving in that direction, or are you just sticking with what works?
You know, we're probably not big enough yet to get into a lot of the prepackaged stuff. The big problem with that is distribution.
Right.
Shipping liquid is real expensive. And so trying to get a distribution deal with canned cold brew or something like that is tough. We're doing a real big push right now on the wholesale side of our bean sales. We just got into all of the Hy-Vees in Lincoln. So you can buy our coffee at all the Hy-Vees. We're in Leon's. We're working with Russ's and Super Saver right now. We're negotiating with Costco. So that's a big push. And to support that kind of growth, we purchased a warehouse outside the Haymarket, because you cannot get a 53-foot semi in the Haymarket backed up to a dock with about 10,000 pounds of coffee on it and get it off in any kind of a reasonable fashion. So we're just now wrapping up, opening up a warehouse out on Fulton, out on North 56th Street.
Okay.
And we'll have a real loading dock. We rehabbed one of our older roasters, so we've got more roasting capacity. We had outsourced our cold brew production because of some new regulations that were coming down from the FDA, concerns about food safety. So it took a pretty significant investment in equipment to comply with the new regs, but we'll have that in place out there. So we'll be bringing our cold brew production back in-house.
So you actually do cold brew?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We do gallons and gallons and gallons of cold brew.
Wow.
In fact, we have it on tap in kegerators.
No kidding.
That's how we deliver it in stores, and I have one at home.
Of course, why not?
Yes, and so that's another, like, the university is buying cold brew for the students and for some of the athletes and things like that. It's a great, quote, energy drink.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing artificial in it. It's a good thing.
That's really cool. So you're starting to move in that direction. So you see the opportunity, and it's like, hey, got to go in that direction, because you're already doing stuff on ice. Because when I think cold brew, I think just it's in a cup, it's got some ice, and off you go. But you're actually bottling and making cold brews so you can grab it and go.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, and we've got
in a keg.
And we have a partnership a project. I won't call it a partnership. I'm going to oversell that. But with Empyrean Brewing, we have a cold brew cream ale that we developed over the summer, and that's a really nice beer. We sell the heck out of that, and they've got that in distribution in 6 or 8 states. And then they are now developing one for the winter called Rocket Stout.
Wow.
Which
How
will have
cool
a little
is
more
that?
of our coffee in it. So lots of fun.
Fantastic. So we've got 30 seconds left. I did go through your website. I got a lot of stuff on the website. So give us the website.
Millcoffee.com.
There you go. And you deliver?
Yep.
Ship?
Free local delivery.
How about that?
And I should know the numbers, but if you order over a certain amount, it's free shipping.
Yeah, I think it said like $50,
Yeah.
I think is what it said. So that's really cool. And then if you're a business, you can get the mill, bring the coffee in, no more Sanka, right? Get rid of Sanka. Do they still make Sanka?
Probably.
Yeah, they probably do. Well, you're listening to 93.7 The Ticket. Thank you so much for tuning in early this morning. And Dan, thanks for coming in. We
You bet.
appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me. It was great talking to you guys.
Yeah, it was fun. All right. Well, it's time to head to the airport and go watch the Browns take their beating. Are you as ready for this as I am?
No,
Me.
I could be doing homework.
That's how bad our season is. All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys. You're listening to 93.7 The Ticket, and we will see you next week.